Lately, I've been on like a little jazz excerpts vibe for creating music. So just creating like anywhere from 16 to 32 bars of jazz music is just kind of been my kick. Um, yeah, so this is one I just kind of want to show what I'm doing. And so it starts with addictive drums because obviously the drumming needs to be good. Do a lot of random accents and things in here. Now you can play the drums. I'm not a drummer. I've said that a million times. But what's cool is there's these MIDI packs, and you can mix and mangle whatever you want to do. So I just usually start with something that I vibe with. In this case, I picked this one, and then I picked a variation of it right here, and then I go in and I mean, there's obviously that, and then there's right? So these variations have some randomization, but then I'll go in and tweak them even further and drop stuff, move stuff, etc., etc. So then I end up with a couple different variations of how I want the drums to sound. And I could go in and add to those drums. So I could take maybe, let's say I like the hi-hats, but I want to do my own snares. I can do that. Whatever I want to do. Obviously, it's not hard to mix and match when it comes to MIDI. But the drums are usually addictive drums, especially when it comes to the jazz drums. If I just want to do some basic drumming, that's pretty easy. I can do that. But this gives me that swing and that variety that I like. So here's the drums by themselves. And then this is the variation that's different from this one. So that at least 16 bars are going to be somewhat different. So here you go. Okay, now I'm not going to let you listen to the whole thing because that'd get ridiculous. So inside of here, I do even more. Obviously, these notes here, these drums, I'm moving them around to give me some variation in these toms because I don't want the toms to play identical. So then I also select my toms and hi-hats and deviate them a little bit. So you see here the deviation on that note is different, but if you select this row, I'll drop it down and deviate it a little bit. By deviating it, every time it plays through, it's going to randomize the velocity a little bit. So it's not going to play it at the same level. So that's going to give your track a lot more variation. So you'll see I did it there. Did it here. I don't think these notes are actually in the scale, so I don't know, or in the sound. I'm not sure why the MIDI put that there, but now, there you go. So you don't need addictive drums to do this. I do like the sound of addictive drums a lot better, so I tend to use it. But you can use handy groove drums or any live sounding drums that you can find. You can use those. And you don't have to use the MIDI that they have in here, so it's very convenient for making drum breaks. You could use, oh, by the way, you can edit kits in here. We've already talked about this in other videos. You have the ability to edit everything and add effects onto it. I use a drum bus effects for mine. I use the Roar drum kit enhancer and then the Valhalla vintage verb, which I use on everything. I mean on all my drums, which is like an ambient preset. It's called Drum Air, and then I put it at 10%, and that's pretty much my drums. And then I just go into the mixer, and I usually and then I'll dial in just a little bit of it. So here it is all the way up over here, and then you just take your send and adjust it accordingly. So that's how I do the drums pretty much. And there is a measure of drumming involved because you can make stuff sound bad quick if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm using obviously these MIDI packs and things or whatever to mix and match pieces. So I might chop a little section like this and move it to a different section just to give it some variation so it doesn't play it as identical. Those are just a few of my things that I do. Sorry about that noise. That's me using keyboard. Okay, so moving on. So that's the drums. Then I recorded in ample sound guitars. So this is a nylon. Use scalar to get some chords and then come up with a cool pattern. Can't talk today. So here's the pattern that I came up with. I'll just play it myself. Okay, cool. So if you're going to use scalar, I've said this before, and to me this is still valid. Because you're just playing the chord as a solid, make sure you have humanize on and turn the velocity and timing to both so that you get more human feel to the chords. You can use the strum if you want. What I do is in Ableton is I use the humanize. So I'll put it at like 10%. Humanize, it'll offset the notes. It's already offset from scalar, but then you could do it a little bit more. Then if you really want to get intricate, you could go down to strum, highlight certain notes, and have them strum a certain way. So that's one way to do it too. I don't really do that as much, to be honest. And most of the time I use this on chords. I rarely use it on guitar because I prefer to play the guitar, but I don't have a guitar, so I use ample sound for that. All right. So that's the chords. And then, so I'll usually play, depending on what I'm doing, I'll play 8 to 16. In this case, I only did 8 bars. But I always say is play as much as you can. So if you're going to do a lot of repetitive stuff, try to play 16 at least. Minimum 8. But you don't want to do 2 bars and then it just be super repetitive and just you looping it out. The problem with that is it's going to sound very stale eventually. Oops. So you want to make sure you do that. Okay. Bass. Now, I would play my bass, but I didn't want to hook all that up right now. So what I did was I just used Trillion. And then I have the bass fattener on there. This is from Roar. And then a little punch in parallel. This is a preset in. All these are presets, by the way, in Ableton. So I'm just putting them on there. And sometimes I turn this off, depending on which bass I'm on. Like if I'm on an upright bass, then yeah, I'll turn that off. But if I'm on a jazz bass, then I might turn it on. So it just depends. It's a muted jazz bass. Here's what this sounds like. Sounds weird without it. So listen. So this I literally play because I just feel it sounds better when you play it. you learn the scale, and then just play within the scale. But play what sounds good to your ear versus trying to be so strategic. So there is the option of, here's the notes, the root notes for the chords. You can use those. But I don't even follow that. Typically when I'm doing like a jazzy thing, I'm playing more free. And what I mean by that is just playing whatever sounds good. But I am staying in the scale because I want it to sound good still. But you can play outside the scale. Sometimes tonally something will sound good outside the scale. But just make sure you keep that in mind when you're playing that. Know your scale so you know what to play, or where to play, I should say. I do set my scale up here. Now, if you have the Novation Launch Key Mark IV, like I was telling you, or showing you guys, you can do all this stuff on there. You don't have to use the mouse. You can set the scale on there. You can change the tempo. You can play, you can undo, record, obviously capture MIDI. So that keyboard alone takes away a lot of the mouse work. So there you go. The only time you'll need the mouse stuff is when you're editing MIDI notes itself. So that's my little method to the madness. You don't need a lot of tracks. You see I'm got one track for scalar, one track for trillion, one track for addictive drums, and one for ample guitar. Now here's my solo instrument. So little alto swam, alto sax. So let's minimize some of these. And then you'll come in and you can use your keyboard and stuff to play your leads. So here we go. I use the pitch wheel to give a little pitch, bend, like, right? Or the little modulation gives it the vibrato in the sound. So to accent certain notes when I'm playing, I'll do that. Just use the mod wheel. That's why I like the mod wheel more than I do the touch strips. I find it easier to play sounds like that and control how much they bend or change. So for me, that's important. Now, if I didn't have that and I'm on, let's say, iOS and I'm doing it, then I'm going to touch the screen and adjust the vibrato. So that's just like touching a touch strip on the keyboard. So you might as well just use the touch strip. It's much easier in my opinion. And of course, now we have these rooms where you can adjust where the saxophone will sit in the room. So that's pretty cool. And that's it. And that's kind of my thing. It's like really 4 tracks, maybe 5 if you want to count the scalar track, which is just there for helping me to input chordal ideas. Other than that, you don't really need a lot of tracks. So if you have any of these plugins and you have even Ableton, if you don't have the suite, but you have the intro version, I think the intro version gives you 16 tracks. And even the free version is 8 tracks. So you could probably get away, because you see I only have 8 tracks, but 3 of these tracks I'm not even using. So you could probably get away with just the free version if you wanted to. The only thing you lose out on is all these Max for Live things that I'm using. Like Max for Live, Popsicle, and what was the other one that I have in here? Oh, the stuff for the drums that I use, the roar and the bass stuff. But as long as you can live without those, and you have other plugins to replace it that'll give you what you want, you can still do the same thing It's really not that big of a deal. But anyway, that's it for this video. Just wanted to show you my little jazz excerpts that I do. Thinking about putting out like a little small jazz excerpt album where I would do maybe like 10 excerpts that are like maybe under 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half or something like that each. And they're kind of fun because they don't take long to make, and it gives me a chance to practice playing a lot more. And when I do my ambient stuff, I don't play probably nearly as much because a lot of it's I can generate with different tools. But yeah, with this stuff, I have to play a little bit more. So, but anyway, we'll see. Just wanted to share that with you, my jazz excerpts, and this is just another one to add to the pile. All right, take care. Hope all is well.